Welcome to Advanced Events, an Alexio short course. In this course, we'll go a bit further. We have a basic events course, and in it, we talked about the what, the when, and the where. We'll go further and push into these other tabs. A quick comment about one thing we didn't cover in any great level of detail on the what tab earlier. The Assign Filter tag is an option that will help you later in displaying your calendar. It can also help you if you're using the Alexio CMS and deciding what calendar items display on a particular web page. You can create filter tags and then use them across events. You'll notice I've created 3 different types of tags, one called art, one called coffee, one called talent. If I want to apply all of these, I can do that to a particular event. Now I've got those tags. I'm going to continue to use a special event that isn't for any reason other than on some level simplicity. We discussed in the basic event course that you can tie your events to classes, groups, services, and ministries. I'm going to call my event the Art Show. The first tab we'll discuss is the Attending tab. To restrict attendance, simply navigate to something other than the radio button that says anyone can attend. If I select people matching this criteria, I could perhaps limit it at its most basic level. I could limit it to a campus-specific event. So if I want only people eligible to come to this event, people at my Ephrata campus, I could do that. That narrows down. Only 24 people in my database could potentially attend this event. You can also select that it is an invite-only type of event. If you choose that, you'll need to place people in an invite status, or no one will be able to attend your event. An important checkbox on the Attending tab that again will relate to the Registration tab is that you would want to require registration, and then of course also setting some limits to how many total people can register. If we return to our idea here of people matching a particular criteria, I'm narrowed down on a specific campus. You can set up reminder emails, and you can follow the guidance that if you want to put in a reminder that would go out 5 days before the event and 2 days before the event and the day of the event, you separate it by a comma, and then those automatic email triggers would happen. The Attending tab is twofold in that it is both a proactive, meaning either marking some criteria or making some connection to people to invite them to the event, but it is also a place where you can manage and see and have visibility on who has registered for the event. If I engage the radio button here, moving away from select criteria to manage attendance and registration, you can indicate that people have come to the event, meaning a very manual process. So if somebody registers for your event and they don't use any electronic means to do that, I could still add them to the event. So if I select add people to this list, and I've spoken to Clarissa Abbey and she is coming to this event, I can move her from a to be invited status to a registered or any of the others. Again, a quick summary. The Attending tab, you are saying who can come on one level, but you are also getting very specific. So if you want to see who has registered either online or you want to add somebody manually, you are doing those things on the Attending tab. In the same way that the Attending tab is a place to build a list of people who are either going to invite or who are simply eligible, the Serving tab is a place to build a list of people who will be serving at the event. That begins with the idea of serving positions. To engage serving positions, you would click the Edit Serving Positions option, and I'll create a new serving position. We'll call this I'll create a new serving position. We'll call it parking team. Then I can tie a serving position to a ministry team. So if I select that the only people eligible to work on the parking team are people that are in our greeters group, I've essentially limited who can be placed in that serving role. We'll save it, we'll close this out. And now that I have a serving position, I'll associate it with my event. What I've done here in the Edit Serving Positions area is simply to establish that there is a way for people to serve in parking. Now I'll associate that with this event. I'll add an open position. When you add an open position, it defaults to be just a general serving position. I'll want to change this. I'll select the parking team, which is what I created. And then rather than having it unassigned, which is fine for now, I could leave it in an unassigned mode, which is simply a reminder that I need someone to fill that role. I'll engage the icon with the people on it. And now I'm seeing just people who serve on the ministry team greeters. And we'll select John Alexander. You'll notice that he's now in a to be invited status. When I select finish at the bottom of my event editor, an email will be sent to John Alexander asking him if he will serve in the parking team. You can also just add people to the list and then indicate their position. So if I select perhaps an entire ministry team, I could navigate here and select perhaps everyone on my greeters team or a select group of people on that particular team. And then I go in and assign what position I would like them to work in. They'll all be invited. When we get responses, if John Alexander opens his email and says yes, he will respond, that will update his status, and I'll go ahead and kind of fast forward that, and he would indicate that he is confirmed, or he obviously could choose some other option. Your check-in tab is where you are going to indicate, is this an event that we are going to have some form of electronic check-in take place? Two different options exist, Elexio Mobile and Elexio Check-in. Both of those will be talked about in more detail in our check-in related classes. We are not going to go into detail for them right now. Not all people who use the Elexio database also use check-in. Everyone does have access to mobile, but the relationship between these two is so close that will be discussed in one of our check-in related classes. We discussed graphics in our basic level class, and we'll just revisit it again. This is where you could use a custom graphic both to display it in a calendar mode and in check-in. We turn our attention to registration. There are two options for registration. One would be simple registration. Simple registration is by default what is there. In other words, it's simple and there is no cost. Remember, this does work in concert with the attending tab. If I've marked require registration, when somebody views this in the calendar, it will clearly denote that we need to know you are coming. It will say attendance required, and it will lead them through a registration process. If it's as simple as you're coming and there's no cost, you leave it just like this. If it's a simple event with just a straight up basic cost and you do not need to collect any registration information other than who the person is, and you want that to only be visible for people who have a login, so logging into the portal or logging into the mobile app, i.e., you don't necessarily need this to be promoted outside to guests, visitors, people who might just happen upon your church website. That's a simple event, and you can have a cost associated with a simple event. More commonly, if you're doing some type of a special event, you will want to use a custom registration form. And if you do that, you'll want to engage use custom registration form for the event, and then you'll work through the process of building out a custom registration form. Now, that form could be a very simple form that only asks a few basic pieces of information, but the key here is it will allow people to register who are not in your Alexio database. We have 7 courses that we talk about using database web forms, and database web forms are the engine for creating custom registration forms. So I point you to that entire grouping of courses. You'll see that some of them do focus specifically on event registration, but I recommend that you watch all of them. The resources tab is simply an indication of I need physical resources of some sort. I'll mark here that I need this smartboard for this event, and if I do, what's going to happen is it's going to request that be used, and that request is going to go to the owner of that resource. That's different than these tables. I indicate that I need 5 of these tables. Whoops, I'm sorry. I meant to say it's different than the sound cart. If I indicate that I want 1 of these sound carts, it's okay. I now have it reserved. There's no approval process here. The publicity tab is where you will engage where this event is made known. Portal and mobile would probably be a given for most churches that are using those 2 items. There are certainly events that wouldn't make sense for portal and mobile, meetings that you don't necessarily need everybody to know about. But if it's an event where you want to drive attendance, you do want to publicize these things on portal and mobile. You can have an owner, which we saw on the What tab. We talked about that in our basic course. And if you want the main contact person to be the event owner, you simply just click that box and it will make that the case, but you could override that and use someone else. There is not a lot of magic that goes along here with promoting this event on social media. If you choose to do it, you're going to be redirected to your Twitter account, your Facebook account, and you can promote it. You can use a URL to promote details about the event. If you choose to use some special web page to promote the event, this is more of a for reference only at this point. There's not anything it's going to necessarily do. It's not going to put information there. You would need to build that web page, but if you do place a URL here and you tweet about it, it would use that URL. The output wizard we know about from a previous course. This would allow you to communicate with your church about the event. Finally, the notes area. The notes can be anything. One of the things that gets used commonly here would be to, you can select a image file and paste it into this notes area, and it is great for putting in a room layout for your event team, your facilities team. They can then view that in reports. So if you printed a report for the art show, if you've pasted a JPEG image in here or any typical image file type, it will print in your reports. We have a tip of the month, which we do every month here at Alexio. There is a tip of the month specifically on doing that sort of activity. Well, that's it. That is a tour through the other tabs of the event editor. Thank you for watching this Alexio short course.